The gate to the Garden of Eden just found in Jerusalem. Consider discovering a hidden gateway that could bring you to the famous Garden of Eden. That's exactly what a team of archaeologists discovered recently in Jerusalem. Join us as we dive into the fascinating story of the gate to the Garden of Eden, an ancient treasure covered in mystery for centuries. This is a revelation that could transform our knowledge of history as we know it. So get ready to discover the secrets of the past and start on an adventure that will captivate you. The Garden of Eden signified more than just a location. For starters, the phrase Garden of Eden in Hebrew translates to Gan Eden, which means heaven or paradise. The Garden of Eden was a place created by God for mankind's first man Adam during creation week. It became the location where the first man and woman would experience God's presence, acting as a model for the tabernacle, temple, and eventual New Jerusalem. There were a lot of trees in the garden, including the tree of life and the tree of knowing good and evil. The garden, which was apparently destroyed during the Great Flood, was guarded by celestial messengers from God, cherubim, wielding a sword of fire that prohibited entrance and turned every way. During the process of making the world, God set up the Garden of Eden as a place for people to live, especially the first man, Adam. On the third day of creation, God made plants that would bear fruit. He watered them with a mist, which could have been a heavy dew since there was no rain to water the plants. Then God made Adam a garden home where he could learn the skills he would need to subdue the earth, which was his job. God made a big river run out of Eden to help people farm the land. This river split into 4 rivers to cover the whole world. God put 2 trees in the middle of the garden, the tree of life and the tree of knowing good and evil. The second tree had food that was not allowed, so God's first rule was to stay away from it. Aside from that one tree, the man, his wife, and the animals had food from all kinds of plants and their fruit. Then God put Adam in the garden and told him to take care of it. Then God told Adam that he couldn't eat from the tree of knowing good and evil. Adam had all kinds of animals come to him, but none of them was a good fit. So God made a woman for him to be his partner. Adam and Eve fell because they disobeyed God. Satan, in the form of a snake, tried to get Adam and Eve to eat the forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge. When they believed the lies of the snake, they were kicked out of the garden. Cherubim with swords of fire were put at the gate of Eden to stop people from going back into the garden. Since the garden is in the middle of everything, and the eastern gate is described, the sword of fire that turned every way seems to leave the garden with a back entrance. The landscape is hard to see, but it was mostly hilly, and 4 river bottoms led away from it. Flaming sword comes from words that mean burning wasteland. If this was true, a no man's land kept people from getting to the beautiful paradise. God made a garden in Eden, which is also known as heaven. Since the Hebrew version of Genesis has a word, the garden was planted in Eden, but it is not the same thing as Eden. Since the word Eden means paradise, it was a garden in the paradise area. It's not clear if Eden was a physical name for more than just the garden, or if it was mostly just the garden. Based on how the word Kadam was used in the future, this was in the direction of the sunrise. Since his people were kicked out of the eastern gate, they have been told to face east to find their way. Since the finished creation, or man, was east of the garden, it was possibly in the middle of the earth's landmass. When God told people to fill and rule the world, all of creation was in front of them at the top of the world. Out of Eden, which was at least a hill, if not a mountain, a big river flowed and split into 4 smaller rivers. These rivers were the Pishon, which ran through the whole gold-rich area of Havilah, the Gihon, which ran through the area of Cush, the Tigris, which ran through the area of eastern Ashur, and the big Euphrates. The places named for the first 2 rivers, Havilah and Cush, are to the south of what would become Canaan. The Hiddekel ran through the area to the east, and the sources of the Euphrates were to the north. Since the Great Flood changed the world so much, it is impossible to know where Eden is. After the flood, people may have ended up close to where it all started. They may have named the 2 rivers on either side of the plain of Shinar after the biggest rivers known from Noah's records. By God's plan, this part of the world is very close to the center of the Earth's landmass. When God wanted to talk to his people again, he told them to make a movable dwelling place where he could show himself. This big tent would have a room inside it that was filled with things from Eden. The most obvious of these signs of Eden was the golden cherubim in and around the innermost room of the property. On the thick blue curtains were stitched 2 angels facing each other. The top of the Ark of the Covenant had 2 smaller golden angels facing each other. The cherubim remind me of the guardians who watched over the yard, especially the trees. Inside the Ark of the Covenant were the 10 Commandments, which were God's proof of the knowledge of good and evil. Even though everyone knew these rules, the pills in the box they were in were not to be touched. The lampstand and the table for the bread of the present were 2 more symbols that were outside the veil but not open to the public. As a sign of endless life and a reminder of the tree of life, the lamps were always to be lit. Almost 500 years later, the temple was built to replace the tent. David had built a tent to house the ark, but it was his son Solomon who built the temple. The temple served for about 500 more years before it was destroyed and then rebuilt to serve for about the same amount of time in different stages of grandeur. Even though the temple was bigger, it had all the same parts as the tabernacle. But in the inner shrine, called the Holy of Holies, there were 2 huge statues of cherubim standing with their wings spread out and facing east. This looked a lot like the cherubim that stood watch at the east gate of Eden. Also, cherubim and palm trees were carved into the temple's walls that were made of panels. This was a memory of how beautiful the original garden was in the tropics. Once Jerusalem on earth had been destroyed for the second time, God's glory left the earth to live in heaven for the rest of the last days. There, the universal tree of life and the Ark of the Covenant would be safe from forces trying to take over the land. But when the last day of judgment comes, all the people who follow God will live where he lives, in an incredibly beautiful and huge copy of the Holy of Holies, which will be called the City of God or the New Jerusalem. God will live with his people forever. There will be rivers running through the land where there used to be deep seas. At least 12 trees will grow from the tree of life. There are a few references in the book of Ezekiel that are thought to be allusions to the Garden of Eden, though it is not expressly named. One of the most important is seen in Ezekiel 28, where the prophet is delivering a message of judgment to the king of Tyre. Ezekiel employs imagery in this text and appears to be based on the tale of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Ezekiel chapter 28 verses 13 and 14 states, "You were in Eden, God's garden, and you were adorned with every precious stone, ruby, topaz, emerald, chrysolite, onyx, jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and beryl. Your settings and mountings were crafted of gold, and they were ready the day you were born. You were anointed as a guardian cherub, because I ordained you to be so. You were on God's holy mountain, walking among the flaming stones." According to this scripture, the king of Tyre was in Eden, God's garden, and was adorned with costly stones. And this appears to be a reference to the Garden of Eden, which was reported to have featured pleasing to the eye and good for the food trees, as well as a river that flowed through it and watered the garden. While Ezekiel does not specifically name the Garden of Eden, this passage and others like it indicate that he was drawing on garden imagery and symbolism in his prophetic utterances. We know it's referenced in the Bible, but because it can't be found, some may wonder if it ever existed. To be honest, many people will try to dismiss the story of the Garden of Eden as mere legendary fiction. Part of the problem with this notion is that God was explicit in not just planting a garden, but also in doing so in a specific area. Eden was the location of the garden. The fact that you can't find the garden doesn't mean it doesn't exist. In addition, the garden is mentioned in Isaiah chapter 51 verse 3, Ezekiel chapter 28 verses 12 and 13, chapter 31 verse 9, chapter 36 verse 35, and in Joel chapter 2 verse 3. Revelation chapter 22 verses 1 through 3 also cites the tree of life, which was found in the garden specified in Genesis. Earlier in Revelation, Jesus references the tree of life. In fact, the tree of life from which Adam was forbidden to eat after he sinned will be the tree of life from which we shall be able to eat in eternity. In Revelation chapter 2, verse 7, "Whoever has ears, let them hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To the one who is victorious, I will give the right to eat from the tree of life, which is in the paradise of God." The Septuagint, which is a Greek translation of the Old Testament, employs the same word in Genesis that Jesus uses in Revelation. It is mentioned in the beginning by God the Father. In the end, Jesus mentions it. This deal is proof that the Garden of Eden is real. So, where exactly is the Garden of Eden? Honestly, despite numerous attempts, no one has been able to pinpoint the exact spot. What we do know is that Paradise Lost will be replaced with Paradise Regained. God's goal of perfect friendship and communion with those who love Him will be achieved once more, and this time it will remain forever. Regardless of the numerous views and beliefs about the Garden of Eden, one reality stands above all others. Will you be there to witness it? God has made provision for you to eat the fruit of the tree of life in eternity, regardless of the exact location or whether we ever find it. Regardless of where you are, let us ensure that you are one of the overcomers so that you can also enjoy eternal life in paradise. Thank you for joining us on this amazing journey of exploration. If you're as fascinated as we are by the story of the gate to the Garden of Eden, then please make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. We also would appreciate you liking our video, and if you want to help us bring you more exciting stories like this one, please do give us that thumbs up and share this video with all your friends and family, and also those who would also be curious to know more about the Garden of Eden or any other stories as we share with you right here on our channel. Hey, who knows what additional wonderful secrets await to be discovered? All you have to do is stay tuned to find out. Thanks for spending part of your busy day with us, and we look forward to catching up with you in our next video. Have a great rest of your day, and thanks for watching.